Hi everybody, today we're going to be preparing a one-pot macaroni and cheese, and this is a great recipe for beginners because almost all of the ingredients just get dumped into a pot and stirred until the pasta is cooked, and then you just add your cheese and you're basically done. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to talk about my meats. So I have some shell pasta. This is about 8 ounces of shells today instead of macaroni. I have roughly 2 3/4 cups of milk. I have some extra salt and pepper. I have a little bit of butter. I also have, for my official seasonings, I have some salt, pepper, and mustard powder. I know some of you might be a little nervous to use mustard powder, but it's not spicy, or it's a little spicy, but it doesn't taste vinegary like normal prepared mustard does. It just gives the macaroni and cheese a little bit of a nice background flavor, some complexity. I also have, today I'm using some cheddar cheese, a little bit of Parmesan, and some cream cheese. The cream cheese kind of gives it that like American cheese style flavor, helps us with that a little bit. And then I have a little bit of extra water just in case I need it. I might use it, I might not. As you're boiling your pasta, you'll see that we might need to add a little extra moisture or water, liquid to our pasta as it cooks. We make sure it cooks properly. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna turn on my pan. You can get away with turning it on high heat because we're going to be bringing our pasta to a boil. So I'm going to throw in some butter. You can melt that up a little bit just so it melts a little easier for us. You could also just dump it in, it's fine. I'm just going to make sure that my pan's heating up properly. Okay, we've got butter. Now I'm going to throw in my pasta. And I'm going to throw in my milk. And my prepared seasonings. Okay, so I'm just going to give these a stir. Really quick, I'm going to go ahead and put these in my sink. Okay, so now all I need to do is just cook our pasta in our milk until it is al dente. And you're going to want to stir it every now and then. You don't have to constantly stir it, but you do want to stir it every now and then so the milk doesn't burn. Now, okay, so I do have my heat on high right now. I'm only doing that so I can bring my milk up to a simmer. If I keep this on high the entire time, the odds are very good that my milk's going to start to burn, especially because I might not be stirring it all the time. So once my milk comes up to a simmer, I can go ahead and turn my heat down to medium-high and then kind of keep an eye on it. If it seems like my milk gets too hot, I might go all the way down to medium. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and stir this up, and I will meet you back here once we come to a simmer. Okay, so now my milk is brought up to a simmer, and I went ahead and turned my heat down a little bit. You really want to be careful with your heat for 2 reasons. One, your milk could definitely boil over. Milk boils over very easily because it has a lot of sugar in it. It heats up really fast, among other things. And we don't want to have our milk burn. So we'll go ahead and put our heat on medium to medium-high. Depends on how powerful your stovetop is. So I'm just going to keep stirring this and simmering it until the pasta is fully cooked. You might notice in the overhead shots later that I'll add a little bit of water, and if I need to, I'll talk about that later. But basically, as your pasta cooks, it's going to absorb some of the milk, and some of the water in the milk is going to evaporate off. So if I notice that my pasta is getting kind of dry, it doesn't have as much sauciness as it did before, then I'm going to add a little bit of water at a time to keep things moving and to keep things from burning. So you want your pasta to always have the appearance of kind of a little bit of sauce or milk at all times. So I will meet you back here when our pasta is done. Okay everybody, so about 10 minutes has passed. I'm going to try my pasta and see if it's cooked. I'll turn my heat down in the meantime. Really blow on your pasta because it's going to be super hot. Okay, actually my pasta is perfectly cooked, so mine only took about 10 to 12 minutes. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn my heat off. And this actually looks like a really good amount of sauce. I can still add some water. If I add my cheese and it looks a little too thick, I can still add a little bit of water. Now again, the nice thing about this pasta, it's all cooked in one pot. You're not going to drain the pasta, you're going to leave it just like it is here. All that starch does come out of the pasta as well. and that's thickened our sauce up. That's what's making it kind of like a nice creamy sauce. If you make a traditional stovetop mac and cheese, usually you have to make a roux with butter and flour and add your milk and whatnot and cook it all separately. But our starch is acting as that binder for our sauce, so it's great. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and add all my cheese. And you might find as you are stirring in your cheese that it stops melting at some point because your cheese might be a little bit cold. And if it stops melting, it's just because the sauce has cooled down too much and that there's not enough residual heat to keep melting your cheese. So if that happens to you, all you need to do is turn the heat back on to about low until your cheese melts a little bit more for you. But so far we're doing okay. This is super, super cheesy sauce. Look at that, so much cheese, it's crazy. And you can add whatever cheese you want. I just used what I had on hand. Normally, your traditional macaroni and cheese does have cheddar cheese in it, but you could add, Fontina, Gouda. Some people add blue cheese to theirs. Monterey Jack, you could do like a spicy style macaroni and cheese. You could do Italian and do some like ricotta and mozzarella, Parmesan. Maybe add some tomatoes. But we'll stick with the semi-traditional today. Make sure you break up the cream cheese as you're stirring it. It might want to remain in kind of a block. So you don't want to accidentally you don't want to think it's melted in there and then you find out, oh, that was a gross bite of like all cream cheese. So make sure you break it up. Okay, this looks really good. I think we're about done. And it's nice and melty still, so that's good. Okay, so for you, this style sauce might be a little too thick. For me, it's a little bit on the thick side, so I'm gonna add a tiny bit of water. You could also do milk, absolutely. We're just gonna do water today. I'm gonna turn on my heat just a tiny bit to kind of heat that through. I love macaroni and cheese, but I kind of like the sauce to be like a tiny bit thin. Not thin, but thinner. Especially because the pasta is going to thicken up. The entire dish is going to be thickening up even more as it sits. So you don't want to make it too thick, and then by the time you eat it, it's like gluey. Okay, so we'll just stir that in. This looks good. Okay, let me go ahead and get my spoon here. I'm going to taste it to double check the seasoning. I think it's perfect. I could use a little more salt though, actually. A little more salt, almost perfect. Pepper's good though, good amount on the pepper. Okay, one more bite. So you do have to, when you're seasoning things to taste, you do need to try it a few times. Okay, now it's perfect, officially perfect. Okay, let me go get my bowl. And I'll scoot this out of the way so you can see better. Get rid of a few things here. Okay, so here we have our stovetop macaroni and cheese, our one pot stovetop macaroni and cheese, or shells and cheese. And again, you can use any cheese you want. You can customize it however you like. There we go. Our one pot shells and cheese. I hope you enjoy.